Hi there, welcome to Boxing Deep Dive. I'm Lyndon Hosking and this is Dream Fights. This is where we match up two legends of the sport from either the past or present and discuss who we think wins and why. So I'm going to bring in my co-hosts as always, the one and only Grant Tassie Brown and the best dressed promoter, manager, commentator in the business, Peter Maniatis. How are we, fellas?
No, great to be on the show, Lyndon. And Tassie, my quiz sparring partner.
Yeah, mate. Hoping to go back to back next one.
All right, we'll see.
You'll be the first one, so hopefully you do it.
Well, this is one of my favourite shows of the week, guys. This is Dream Fights, and before we get on to this one, let's go on to last week's ones because I think it was yours, Pete. It was Manny Pacquiao and Costa Tszyu. A little bit of a surprising one here. Manny Pacquiao getting the nod, 57% to Costa Tszyu's 43%. Now, I think on the
all night, Filipinos.
Yeah,
a lot of Filipinos. A lot of Filipinos.
I think Pete voted a few more times he was supposed to. I think he got on.
I just kept banging it away. I just kept going and going.
Because that was our Instagram poll. So, yeah, so 57% to 43. I think last week it was Tassie and I for Costa, and Pete, you went for Manny Pacquiao. But really looking forward to this one, especially. Tassie, it was your turn, and who have you got for us?
Mate, literally can't split these guys. The great Julio Cesar Chavez versus Alexis Araujo. Both three-division world champions.
Yeah, this was a hell of a matchup, Pete, and at the time, we'll go through the records for starters, but just run us through Chavez's record there. So 107, 6 and 285 KOs. But look, all those belts that he won along the line, and he probably could have added more with a little bit of luck.
He could have.
Mate,
Go ahead, Tassie.
Go, Pete. You go, mate.
I was going to say, look, touted as the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. I mean, Canelo Alvarez is starting to creep up there, but he still is the greatest Mexican fighter, 107 wins. I mean, this guy's a living legend, and you just can't put into words some of the performances that he did, and even fighting Greg Houghton in front of 125,000, I think, in Mexico City, and the things he's achieved. And his left rip to the body, into the liver as well. Just some of the little tricks that he had. He was a pure fighter, and one of my favourite fighters of all time. Everyone loved Julio Cesar Chavez.
Well, Tassie, we had him in our all-time top 10s. I think we pretty much had him around the same mark as well. But just, I know it's all talks about Canelo at the moment, but I think the ones that are saying Canelo is the best ever, maybe just getting a little bit ahead of themselves, I think. I think Chavez has still got a few runs on the board before Canelo gets there. What do you think?
Yeah, look, he's on the way. I can't, he definitely deserves to be mentioned. But, yeah, Chavez and Ruben Lavala is always, for me, been the two. Canelo's knocking on the door now. I'll wait till Canelo retires before I put him there. But Chavez and Olivares, and I tell you now, Marquez jumped up a few notches with that, the knockout over Pacquiao. I mean, Marquez was a multi-division champion as well. So he got, and Ricardo Lopez is there as well. But Chavez is, he's the man, mate. I mean,
that punch there, Tassie, the one on Meldrick Taylor you're watching there, that for me solidified his greatness. I think I've said that a couple of times in our shows. Great champions find a way, and behind on points, he found a way.
Yeah, mate. I mean, wins over Juan Laporte, Rocky Lottridge, Roger Mayweather twice, Mario Martinez, Hector Camacho, Edwin Rosario, Meldrick Taylor. So many, Jose Luis Ramirez.
He fought everyone.
The list goes on and on, mate, of just top class fighter. Rafael Lemon, another good fighter. I mean, Sammy Fuentes. The list goes on and on of how many champions he beat.
Yeah, Pete, I think, as I said before with the Canelo conversation, I think the people that are saying Canelo's number one, they probably have short memories as far as not watching Chavez back in the day. And what I really loved about him, it didn't matter who they were or the ranking or belts, whatever. He just fought everyone, and I think that again epitomises a great fighter. He was never scared to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, regardless of where they were in their careers.
All Mexican fighters are like that, though, and he was a proud Mexican. And the fact that 107 pro wins, I mean, it's hard to get guys to have 50 fights these days, let alone 107 wins over that entirety of his whole career. I mean, he goes down as one of the legends. And one thing about Julio Cesar Chavez, he was so methodical inside the ring. He didn't waste anything. He was always perfect in everything he did. He didn't have that sort of brilliance of a flashy Negro fighter, but he had that his own style. He was, I mean, pretty similar to, say, Constantine Tszyu, where Tszyu was very methodical and can stalk a fighter and take you out if you kind of made mistakes. And he was exactly the same as that. Chavez's body punches was just, it was another level. And he used to know exactly when to work your body, so he'd finish it to the head later in the fight. He just done everything. And he used to close the show as well if it was close, as we saw Melrick Taylor. And that's what defines a real top-line fighter to a legend, a guy that can close the show when it's close.
He did, Tazzy, he was such a great fighter, wasn't he, that he a bit like Canelo, I suppose. He could make you miss by a centimetre, and he just ground you down bit by bit by bit, didn't he? Yeah,
look, his pressure was next level. I'd say he could box. I've seen him on the back foot sometimes, and he'd gone the left jab. But more pressure, body shots. Someone back then, I forget, some boxing identity commented that he was the toughest man on earth at the time. It was just so tough, and look at all the punches he took off Taylor to be able to come back. And he's just pure greatness. And if you don't know about Chavez, then you don't know much about boxing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And he's one of those, like all elite great fighters, he made very good fighters look ordinary many times. So let's take a look at his opponent, Pete. Alexis Araujo, 77-8, 62 KOs, the explosive thin man, WBA featherweight champion, WBC super featherweight champion, IBF lightweight champion, and like Chavez in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. But another very, very underrated fighter, wasn't he?
Yeah, and as we like to say, the mustachio Arguello. He had that classic mustachio that was his trademark. And, just one of those brute of a beast of a fighter. And back then, the climb weight classes, it was so difficult because you really had to fight the top guys to do it and jump up in weight. It was, it was against the odds. A lot of the good fighters didn't want to do that and would always stay in their weight class, like it was grim death to move up. But he moved up from featherweight right up to lightweight, and testament to him. And he was an all-action fighter and a crowd pleaser, and one of my favourites as well. And you see there, he works hard to the body. He's another guy that's just a consummate professional inside the boxing ring, and so hard to beat and tough as nails as well. Didn't mind if they came at him. He used to find plenty under pressure.
It's funny too, isn't it, Tazzy? Like, you look at him too, he loves ripping to the body, hooks to the head, hooks to the body, and it reminds me of a little bit of a modern-day Brock Jarvis, doesn't he? Well, Brock Jarvis reminds me of him. He's a tall fighter, he's always bigger.
That build, yeah.
He gets in close, he rips, he hooks, he muscles him back. He's
he was quite sort of tall and lanky, but he went to the body hard. He could box, he could punch.
And he's busy.
Look, he beat the great Ruben Olivares and win his first title at featherweight. Then went up to super featherweight and fought guys like Bobby Chacon, Ruben Casario, Navarrete, Lemon, Bozo, all them guys. 8 defences he made. Then he went up to lightweight. He beat Joe Watt, a good Englishman, and then beat the young Bilbo Mancini, who was the American Idol at the time, and like 3 divisions, mate. He made plenty of defences. He was a boxer, puncher, 15-round fighter. And then he went up and fought the great Aaron Pryor. And in the first fight, hurt Pryor, had him in fits. And, obviously lost the 2 fights to Pryor. Pryor's one of the greatest super lightweights of all time. He's up there with Costa, 1 and 2, either way, how you want to have it. Arguello, the thing about this fight, it's a really good matchup because I see different fights for him and Chavez. You could have this as super featherweight or lightweight, either or in their prime. Mate, I think this is a real close one, this one.
Yeah, it is. And Pete, and I still remember when he fought Pryor, as much as the beating that he took. He was such a warrior in both fights when he would not go down, and I think at the end he pretty much slumped down and was saved by the referee. But just the heart of a champion, and it's unfortunate, of course, he's passed away now. But they don't make him like this guy anymore, do they?
No, they don't. And just all heart, action, beautiful body puncher. We mentioned that before, and he comes forward, and he was just one of those guys that you just want to see every fight he was in, because he just give you everything he had, and his body punching was another level as well. I mean, as you mentioned, sort of tall, athletic type of fighter, and he used to get low and body punch really well and punch to the head as well. And we mentioned the prior fights, but he was just, in those fights, he was in it right up to his ears. I mean,
he hurt Pryor. He hit Pryor with, and there is a bit of cloud about the Pryor fight. We'll never know about the drink bottle.
Yeah.
But he looked like he was possessed that night Pryor, so I wouldn't be surprised because he took some punishment.
Yeah, no, he certainly did.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this fight would probably be at lightweight. I think would probably be the best bet. Like you said, Tassie, super featherweight, but I think Chavez probably hit his peak at lightweight, I think, even though he had X amount of defences as a WBC super featherweight champion. But either way, what a great matchup. So, Tassie, it was your fight, mate. How do you see it, and who wins and why?
So many different results, back and forth. Aguayo's got a bit of height in Chavez. I think he's a bit longer, a bit of a better boxer. Body punch is probably equal. As much power as Chavez, but Chavez, for some reason, always won those big fights in his prime. I'm not talking later on. I'm talking like at his peak. It only took, a real master boxer like Whittaker to sort of upset him, even though it was a draw. But the result there. But I'll give it to Chavez still in a split decision. Really, no one's getting stopped. I think it's just a great fight. Arguello can beat Chavez. There's ways I can argument Arguello that wins this fight, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna stick with Chavez probably because of my heart and say it's a split decision about a war.
Yep. Well, it sounds like you're a bit torn in the result. What about you, Pete?
Very torn.
Yeah, this one could go either way as well. I mean, Arguello a bit more taller, just, it's just so, you're splitting hairs. They're both brilliant body punchers. They're both complete fighters. It's just going to depend who's ready on the night. I mean, sometimes it just depends. A punch might miss by an inch, and then on that night it lands on an inch and someone moves at a spot they normally wouldn't move. It takes something just to split them. But if I had to give my verdict, I'd be going like Tassie, split decision, Julio Cesar Chavez, because I just feel that he just is the type of guy that just gets that little bit. You don't know what you call it, but he just gets that little bit at the end to get him over the line. And I think he'd find that, and he'd, especially at lightweight, and he'd get himself just over the line. It'll be a developed split decision, but he'd just get there and have his hand raised.
Yeah, got to agree, guys. I think it was such a hard fight. And just look at both of those highlights of both fighters there. Very similar, even though one's probably about a foot taller than the other. But they both love getting inside, ripping and hooking to the head and body. And I think it'll be an all-action fight, no doubt. I think it would be non-stop from start to finish. I think Chavez is always a busy fighter, would probably be met in the centre of the ring by Arguello, who would be happy to take him on. But I just think a little bit of class Chavez's way, a little bit busier, probably more telling sort of punches. And I think, like you guys, I think Chavez would get a very, very close decision. Whether it's unanimous or split, either way, but will be very, very close. And either way, it would be one hell of a fight. And, as I said before, we're watching, they don't make them like those guys anymore. And I think it'd be great. No. But for me, I'll agree. I'll go with Chavez by split decision, and that makes it a trifecta, with all of us going with the exact same result, even though we could probably quite easily make a case for the other one winning the same way.
Easily,
for sure.
Easily. Their resumes are both so good, with so many champion big names on their records. They both defended many, many times. They both won 3 divisions. Both could have been 4. I mean, if Arguello didn't have a freak like Pryor around, he wins a 4th division. Chavez tried it a few times, unlucky, he had a young De La Hoya, etc. Both could have been 4 divisions. I mean, just both super fighters. I think more people that don't know box will know Chavez's name. A lot of people won't know Arguello. I guarantee that. But if you know half the thing about the sport, you know all about Alexis Arguello. The pride and joy of Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Nicaraguan versus Mexico.
Well, you're right. He was a bit like Nicaragua. Have I pronounced that right? Nicaragua.
Yeah.
That,
good enough anyway. That Duran was to Panama. Just absolute icons of the sport and of the countries. And Tassie's right with guys like Arguello. I mean, he probably, a lot of people might look at this matchup and go, who the hell is Arguello? Not know much about him, but this is what these dream fights are truly about, is to get 2 absolute great fighters like these 2 together.
Yeah, no, and I'm looking forward to your one now, Lyndon. You've got one coming up. I mean, we haven't mentioned Lionel Rose and Johnny Famechon, and that would have been an interesting... That's my next one anyway.
Well, I'm up next, of course, and I've been having a bit of an all-Aussie flavour a bit lately. I've gone a bit nostalgic. Since we had Barry Michael and Lester Ellis as our classic fight, I've got nostalgic and gone back and watched a few of the Aussie fights. Now, I'm going to go for one that's, I'm sure, going to tickle the fancy of you guys. I'm going for Jeff Fennick versus Lester Ellis for my next fight. And
oh, no.
Yeah, it had to be done. It had to be done. We've got to do Jeff Fennick and Lester Ellis.
A super featherweight.
Super featherweight. Yeah, super featherweight. I almost went for Jeff Fennick versus Barry Michael, which I think would have been a great fight.
Interesting.
Itself, but I think Lester versus Jeff. We all used to hear about the legends of them sparring together and who got the better of who, and I just think it'll be a great fight.
Make sure Mike's on this one then.
Mike's excluded, I think, because he's a Lester Ellis fanboy. So we've got to have it 100% neutral and have an objective view. I'm only joking. Hopefully Mike's back next week. I just think it's a little bit hard to before we get started, it's a little bit hard to look at because I think Lester at his peak was only like early 20s, really, where we didn't really get to see the best of him, maybe 25, 26, 27 at that sort of weight.
Mate,
but I think...
Ripper fight, man. Lester was a gun.
Yeah.
We all know about Jeff Fennick. But, it's a great fight, mate. I mean, Lester was obviously awesome and a world champion. It could have been so much more if he was handled better. He was a pride and joy of Victoria. They could have just done a couple of things a bit different with him. Young, exciting, Western Suburbs boy, attractive bloke, could fight.
Yeah.
It could have done so much more with him.
It's an interesting one, isn't it, Pete? Because we all love Jeff. I think we unanimously had him as, apart from Mike, us three had him as our number one Australian fighter of all time. But I've got to say, Lester Ellis at super featherweight, in the form that he was when he won that world title, I'll tell you what, for me, it's a pick and fight.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. We'll wait next week for that one, but that's a great pick. That is a great pick.
Very interesting to see. I've been sitting on that one.
Yeah, and I hope Mike's available, because I'd like Mike's input on this.
Yeah, well, hopefully he is, and if he's not, then we might have to delay it. But either way, I think it'll be great to discuss. So,
it's good, mate. It's good you got the Aussie flavour going, Lyndon. There's no Aussie questions in the fucking quiz, mate.
No.
Lester Ellis, no Ellis Michaels, no Victorian questions, because Peter's been here a lot longer than me, and
yeah, but all good. Well, look, we're going to cut it short for this one because Pete, you've got a lot on up there with the Tim Zoo fight. I know you're a man of the people, and you've got to go out and be seen at all the parties and all the rest of it. So go shake hands with the crew out there.
Tassie says I'm heading to King's Cross.
It's not what it used to be.
Bourbon and steak bar.
Yeah, wear a mask.
Where Ricky Ponting.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be. The cross over here, but if you see any of the Team Zoo people, tell them I said good day, Pete, Glenn James.
No, they're all downstairs. I'll say you said good day.
Natasha, everyone. Yeah.
Good stuff,
Boris.
guys. Well, thanks again. Hopefully we got
Boris.
Hopefully got Mike back next week. And thanks for watching. And don't forget to vote on Instagram.
I did tell Glenn Jennings as well. He's come a long way since the days of Bendigo.
Yeah,
he had a nice chuckle.
Exactly.
All right, mate.
See you
next week, guys.
See you, boys.
See you, guys.